Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yeah, live around the world on the old internet. Sorry. On ye old internet. At michaeldukeshow.com. And man, sorry. Apparently I'm a little punchy this morning and didn't even know it. Those are the first words I've spoken all morning. Not even talking to myself today. Hello and good morning. Live around the world on ye old internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you will find the audio-only live stream, links to the podcasts, social media sites, and more. And, of course, as always, live around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show, your show that focuses on Alaska issues. That's what we do. Occasionally we wander in some national stuff with Firearms Friday. And, of course, because it's election time, we do some of that. But for the most part, we are all Alaska all the time. And hopefully you will invite some of your friends to come on out and listen to us every morning, either on the radio, or if you live in an area where we don't happen to be on terrestrial radio, you can always listen again to the live stream at michaeldukeshow.com or on TuneIn Radio or wherever, or you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Excuse me, Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble. I'm no longer on Twitch. Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble every morning. And if you subscribe and do all that kind of stuff, you'll get notifications. Theoretically, you'll get notifications every morning when we go live to remind you, to wake you up and get you going and try and give you all the information that you need to talk to your friends, your relatives, your coworkers, and everything else about how things in the state of Alaska work. So we're hoping you love us. I'm sorry if you hear the heater in the background. It is 2 degrees at the house this morning, and the studio has never had any heat. So it's one of those things where got in here this morning and I was like, oh, it's a little crisp in here this morning. So if you hear a little buzz in the background, it's because I got my heater running in the background a little bit so I don't start chattering my teeth this morning. In hour one today, we're going to talk. It's all elections all the time, right? And in Alaska, because of the ranked choice voting thing, we got to wait like 15, 20 days for anything to happen. And so it's all we can really talk about. I mean, it's the only thing that's really going on. Every day we dribble out a little more information, a few more votes get counted, a little more posturing happens, some new minority majority organization goes on. People make plans on things that they have no idea on because we still don't know what the election results are. It's astonishing. And hopefully it's one of the reasons why we will repeal ranked choice voting. Now, yesterday's show was interesting. It garnered some interesting comments from some of the listeners. A couple of the 3 of the listeners reached out to me. One of them was very upset that I had invited Ronald Bailey from Reason Magazine on the program to talk about ranked choice voting and what happened across the country with ranked choice voting, because Ronald was in favor as a libertarian, as many libertarians are. He's in favor of ranked choice voting because in their mind, it's a way to break up the duopoly of the left, right, of the two parties and everything else, which there is some potential for that. but there are other problems with it. And as I've said many times, many times, I guess, over the last couple of months, is that, the problem with ranked choice voting is that theoretically it looks like on paper it will work great. Unfortunately, in practice, in reality, in practical application, it doesn't take into account the philosophies of the different parties. And because the Democrats are predisposed to all hum and kumbaya and hold hands and everybody do the right thing for, sacrifice themselves to literally only usually put up one candidate. And the Republicans, who are rugged individualists and don't play well with others and like to fight it out amongst themselves, we end up always with this one versus, 1v2 or 3, where it's one Democrat and 3 Republicans. It supports them the most in that regard. So anyway, but the caller or the listener who sent me the email was very upset that how could I, I don't want to hear what this guy has to say, yada, yada, yada. But 2 other listeners reached out and had very thoughtful comments that said, it was interesting to hear a different perspective on ranked choice voting. I'm still glad I voted against it, but it was interesting to hear from a different perspective that was outside of the left-right bubble as to why it made sense for it to work, and maybe there's a way to make it work on certain things. And it was an interesting conversation. And I'd like to have more kind of counterpoint interviews with people who I don't necessarily agree with. I've tried to get more folks on the program who don't necessarily agree with me, and it's like they're afraid of me. It's like they just don't want to come on. I don't know if they think that I'm going to have a gotcha moment with them or I'm going to attack them or whatever, but Elise Galvin's been on the program and we had a polite conversation, although she did get a little adversarial there for a little, but I'm not mean. I could disagree with you without, ripping you to shreds or whatever. And Ronald and I yesterday, we disagreed, but I thought it was a great conversation. And, so anyway, I want to thank the listeners for commenting back to me and talking to me and giving me your input on that. Whether you agreed with it or didn't like it or did like it, I did find it gratifying that at least a couple listeners said that was an interesting conversation. I'm trying not to be let me just throw red meat at the base of the show where we just, talk about things that make you go rah, rah. I want folks to, I want folks to think for themselves, and be able to analyze this stuff and have a conversation about it without, losing their minds. So anyway, in that vein, I'm working on getting Eric Boehm from Reason Magazine back on the program next week to talk about the costs of the proposed tariffs from President Trump. Because as I said before, if you're doing good things good, I want to talk about it. If you're doing things that I think are bad, it's something we should talk about. And I am concerned, notwithstanding the phone call from, what was the caller's name last week? Trying to take me to task for being upset about the tariffs. I can't remember his name. Anyway, the gentleman caller that called and was upset that I didn't like the tariffs. We're going to get Eric Boehm on and get his take on what's going on with the tariffs. And it'd be nice to have kind of a counterpoint for somebody who's in favor of it, who's an expert, and somebody who's not, who's an expert. And it was good. So, man, I wandered all over the place this morning. I apologize again, a little punchy this morning, apparently, and not all going on. What was I talking about? Oh, all the things that I'm going to hit on in hour 1. Wow. Okay. Let's stay on target here. So we're going to talk about the latest votes. We're going to talk about the latest because they counted more votes yesterday. We're going to look at how many are left. We're going to talk about, the repeal of ranked choice voting looks like it's going to pass, but if it does, it is just by the skin of its teeth. But more and more people are now commenting that it looks like that Nick Begich is that it's done. Although Mary Peltola put out a email yesterday in a fundraising letter, which, I mean, always be raising money, that I think was interesting that we'll get into. And then we've got some of the latest numbers from CINYC, which is he's the maps and political guy and the number counting guy that's on X that everybody's referencing these days. The ADN has referenced him, must read. The Alaska Beacon, he is a math wonk that gets down into the tabulation of ranked choice voting and everything else. And so we're going to get down into that as well. The last thing we're going to talk about today is the growing speculation about the potential for Mike Dunleavy to be tapped as the new Interior Secretary. Now, this would be, well, first of all, it's exactly what the business as usual crowd in the legislature wants. Why? Well, because from what I'm hearing, they want Mike out and they want Nancy Dahlstrom in there. And there's a reason for that. In fact, it was interesting because KTUU, Alaska's news source, has got an article up about this. And they quote Larry Persily. Now, anybody who's listened to this program knows that I am not a huge fan of Larry Persily. I mean, he is... He's never seen a government dollar that he didn't like to spend, and he never saw a PFD dollar that he wanted to give to you. And he's all about making sure that the government economy is protected. That's pretty much his whole take on everything. But he's quoted in this article talking about the potential for Dunleavy to become the Interior Secretary. And first of all, I love it that he chastises. Here's his quote. Sure, we have more federal lands here in Alaska. Does that make Dunleavy the most qualified person to be the Department of Interior Secretary? There's more to the Department of Interior than just drilling. A whole wide breadth of knowledge and expertise on all the agencies within the department, the ability to work with both sides, someone who can work with Congress and not just agree with the Speaker or the Senate President, but work with Congress, someone who can assemble a staff that's not politically aligned, but has the knowledge and the expertise, who can make convincing art. He just goes on and on and on. And I'm like, dude, have you watched every freaking administration for the last, I don't know how many years? Like they always pick the most best qualified person for all these departments. I mean, it's a political position. You're never going to get somebody who has got, well, the odds of getting somebody who checks all the boxes is very, very low, right? And so a lot of times they have to learn on the job. I'm not saying that's a great way to do things, but all of a sudden, it's like this is a brand new thing. Then the article goes on to talk about that according to the state constitution, if Dunleavy left office, Dahlstrom would become governor, and the adjutant general, Torrance Sachs, who's the leads the National Guard, would become the lieutenant governor. But Persily went on to talk about the difference between Dunleavy and Dahlstrom. And here's the quote. This is from Persily. I know several legislators are hoping and believing that they will have a better relationship if it's Governor Dahlstrom administration rather than Dunleavy. They've known her for the past time in the legislature. They find her easier, not a pushover by any means, but more engaged and better to work with. So I know several legislators are saying it will be an improvement, even if they're of a different party, said Persily. Now, again, I'll tell you that this is not about being in a different party. Forget the party lines in the state of Alaska, in the legislature. The dividing line is not by party. As I've said time and time again, the dividing line in the legislature in this state is pro-big government spend and the public economy is number one, or pro the private economy is number one, and we should have a smaller, more limited government. That's the dividing line. It has nothing to do with party. And I'm going to tell you why you're seeing more and more legislators hoping that Dunleavy leaves and puts Dahlstrom in the catbird seat. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Chili Burr. Anthony said, yes, Mr. Stained Glass Lamp, Ronald Bailey from Reason Magazine, saying that capping campaign and advertising spending with censorship definitely got my butt hair standing up, as I'm now a victim of Mary Peltola's MK Ultra YouTube campaign. Yeah, I mean, that's such a tight line for me, because I kind of agree with both. I mean, I know it's a dichotomy, but I kind of agree with both things, that, yeah, you know, that speech is, you know, the spending of money is speech, but at some point there has to be some kind of mechanism to make sure that we don't, I'm not saying that it all has to be equal, that there has to be equal amounts, but you can't just drown out the little guy. I mean, that's like saying it's a rally and, you know, one guy's got a bullhorn or a megaphone and the other guy's just by himself, because the one guy can afford a megaphone and you can't hear the little guy. And it's, you know, it's just, there's a equity thing there too. Everybody's voice needs to be heard. So I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but yeah, I mean, again, I thought he brought up some really good points, and I enjoyed that conversation. And we'll see what happens. Looks like Jubilee took out Eastman. Yep. I believe that is pretty much a done deal, based on some of the numbers we saw yesterday. Richie says, Mike, the important thing is getting back to a place as a people where we can have discussions, exchange ideas, whether we agree or not, and hopefully grow from it. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Tawny said, I thought your guest was interesting yesterday. I mean, I did too. That's why I bring some of these people on, not to put too fine a point. My chair is bugging me this morning. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I bring these people on a lot of times because I think they would interest me. And hopefully that causes me to engage more and make it more interesting for you. I hope it's a trickle down, right? That's where I'm at. All right. You're watching for David Eastman to file a lawsuit. Watch for things to be finalized, and then David Eastman will file a lawsuit. Well, I don't know why he would do that. I don't know how he would do that. I got 2 minutes here. Where's my reporting from yesterday? I haven't downloaded the new report of the new election summary, but I don't know David would have much to say on that. I'm pulling what is that? 18. What is the House district for him? She's currently as of Tuesday. I don't have the new, like I said, I didn't download yesterday's issue, but as of Tuesday, she's at 50, almost 51%. So I don't know, and that's a 240 vote difference out of 7,000 votes. And so I don't know what he would file suit over, quite honestly, Terry. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Chris said it was interesting to hear your guest yesterday, even though I disagreed with him. Yep. It's in a simplest formula, mass tariffs would be great. Again, another theoretical versus reality debate, but only if it simultaneously drives productions of those same goods back to U.S. soil as a competitor to the higher price counterparts. It's a huge gamble. And that's the thing, is that many of these industries have already been offshored, and we have no way to tool up to compete in that regard. It's a huge gamble that could be as equally as good as it could be catastrophic. And I think that's part of the problem. So, and it was, anyway. Are you ready? Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Dichotomy.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay. Before we went to break, we were talking about the potential for Governor Mike Dunleavy to step into a new role. They're talking about the Secretary of the Interior. That's what all the rumors are saying right now. And ironically, many of the people who you would think who would be like, no, I'm against that. I'm against Dunleavy. They're all for it right now. The Chuck Copps of the world, the Kathy Giesels, the Bryce Edgmans. There's a lot of murmuring going on, and I get people talk to me, right? I mean, people talk to me, people who are in the bubble, staffers, hangers-on, advisors. I get it from all different kinds of areas. Some people are secretly supportive of what we talk about on this program. I'm never going to tell. Anyway, the rumors is that they are actually super excited about the potential for Dunleavy to be appointed by President Donald Trump. And even Persily kind of let the cat out of the bag in talking about it. Again, his quote before we went to break, I read it, but I'll read it one more time. This is Larry Persily's comment to the KTUU. I know several legislators are hoping and believing that they'll have a better relationship if Dahlstrom is in rather than Dunleavy. They know her from her past time in the legislature. They find her easier. Not a pushover by any means, which I think is such a Freudian slip, but more engaged and better to work with. So I know several legislators are saying that it will be an improvement, even if they're of a different party. Again, remember that, because again, it's not about Republicans and Democrats in this state. It's about pro-government economy, pro-government spend versus no on the government spend, right? That's really what it's about. But here's what it's really about. This is the secret that nobody wants to say out loud, but is going around all the rumor mills in the background. The real reason why they want Dunleavy out is because Mike Dunleavy committed that if a defined benefits bill hit his desk, he would veto it. And Nancy Dahlstrom has not made that commitment. In fact, back in 2006, when they were voting to eliminate defined benefits because we were $13 billion underfunded and in the hole on it, she voted to keep it when it was put on the shelf. She was one of the Republicans that voted to keep defined benefits. This is why they want her in the catbird seat versus Dunleavy, because he's already said, and, we could complain about, do nothing Dunleavy or, done left me or what. I mean, all the things that we've complained about or you've complained about, I've seen in the comments, the frustration we feel with him in his almost absenteeism from engaging with the public and everything else. We could talk about a lot, but if he was going to veto a defined benefits bill, that's a keeper, right? That is a keeper. And so now I'm starting to ask the question of, sure, Dunleavy could go be Interior Secretary, but can we wait until April? Does he have to take the position now? Can he talk President Trump into, letting him hold off on that appointment until after the session? Because, baby, I'm telling you right now, they are going to go hot and heavy into trying to get defined benefits in, because that is just such a huge win. Do you understand? You have to go back and remember back in 06, 07, that monumental lift that they were trying to do to try and figure out how to overcome the problems that they had with the defined benefits program, and even the fact that we were $13 billion upside down in that plan. $13 billion. Even though we were, there were still people who were fighting for it, to keep it going, to keep increasing the amount. Before we switched and eliminated the third, we stopped doing the third tier and created that fourth tier of retirement benefits that was defined contributions. I mean, it was a knockdown, drag out fight, folks. And again, we were $13 billion in the hole. So don't think that they are not going to pour the coal on this session to try and get this done. And if Dahlstrom's in versus Mike Dunleavy, guess what? Oh, she'll sign away, man. She's got, it's already, that's what's going on. The whispering is already in the background. I'm hearing it from several places that's what they hope. They hope they'll do it. They hope that Dunleavy will step down. And while I'm frustrated with a lot of the things the governor's done, if he will take a stand and veto the defined benefits plan, and as he has stated that he would if it crossed his desk, then, I mean, I hope that he is retained as the governor up until at least the end of this session so we can figure out some kind of game plan for next go around. I mean, that's where we need right there. Okay, well, that took a lot longer than I expected because I is passionate about it. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Oh, yeah, I know. Tulsi Gabbard is now going to be the director of national intelligence, which I find delicious because the Biden administration had her placed on a terror watch list this last year for political retribution, and now she's going to be the director of national intelligence. Tell me there's not some sweet irony in that right there. Tell me there's not some sweet irony. We've got some new numbers coming in. Yesterday, the Division of Election counted approximately, there's another 9. How many? Too many windows open. How many did they count yesterday? They added more than 8,500 ballots to the statewide count yesterday afternoon. But the new ballots didn't change the leaders of any races. More significantly, according to our friend James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon, the Division of Elections reported almost 5,000 more completed absentee ballots than it did on Tuesday morning. So if the trend continues, those new ballots may be significant for ballot measure 2, the proposed repeal of the state's open primary and ranked choice voting. As of Friday, the repeal led by 4,137 votes. By Tuesday evening, with more votes counted, the lead was down to 2,841. The latest yes count shows them leading by just 2,412. Another 400 vote drop. So they're working through these things. And interestingly enough, as you look at it, this is going to be a squeaker. This is going to be, I think it's going to pass, but it's going to pass by even less than what the original ballot measure number 2 back in 2020 passed by, which was 50.55%. And in fact, the unofficial tallies over at the X post by CINYC, which is he's a political commentator, political maps, politics and stuff guy over on X, who Must Read has been quoting, like I said, the ADN's been quoting, and now James Brooks is quoting. And he came up with some interesting numbers because the Division of Elections won't perform their official ranked choice voting tabulation until November 20th. But it has been regularly releasing the state's cast vote record, which shows how Alaskans ranked their candidates. So you can actually see how the ranking on the ballots is already. So CINYC has been, I think we'll just call that Cincy, right, from now on. Cincy over on X has actually pulled a chart and taken a look at it, and his new commentary is that ranked choice voting is going to be very close. How close? Well, he's saying right now that potentially it could be 600 votes. That's how close it could be. And he said the repeal is on track for a narrow 600 vote victory, but all it would take is for an additional 4,000 or so absentee ballots to show up and break how they're currently breaking for it to fail. Because the absentee ballots are currently breaking slightly towards the no on 2 side, keep ranked choice voting. So all it would take is an additional 4,000 votes to show up between now and tomorrow. Tomorrow is the drop dead date for absentee ballots in state. International ballots from like military bases and overseas have until the 20th. But tomorrow is the drop dead date for the absentee ballots in the state. So it's going to be interesting. So 600 votes is what he's seeing right now in regards to that. Then they get into the Nick Begich race, and I think this is super interesting right now. He says, and I've got the latest his latest image up on the tabulations. They actually pulled all the ranking out, and he did the tabulation utilizing the ranking assumptions from the current ranked choice voting. And he said that the back of the envelope math is here's what's likely. That he is calling the race for Nick Begich. And he said, and I rarely call anything. The overall math shows that Nick Begich projected to lead Mary Peltola by about 2.2% or 7,000 votes going into ranked choice voting, which is going to almost certainly trigger the ranking system. However, even if all the potential additional 21,000 absentee ballots were to come in, Peltola would still trail. But here to me was the interesting part of the breakdown. Remember how I said that the Democrats spent all that money telling people how, not people, but white males, older white males, why they needed to vote for John Wayne Howe versus Begich because Begich wasn't conservative enough. Interestingly enough, what I said yesterday was that I said I can't see a lot of those guys voting for Peltola, because I could, because the whole push was that he's not conservative, that Begich is not conservative enough. And so that they certainly probably wouldn't vote for Peltola. Well, according to the distribution laid out by the state of Alaska, I would be wrong. Of the John Wayne Howe, total number of John Wayne Howe ballots, which is 9,000 or 12,700. Of the second choice votes, Begich is 34% of the second choice votes. Peltola is 20% of the second choice votes. And then 45% of the John Wayne Howe votes were just exhausted. They were bullet voted. But of those who voted, 20% voted for Peltola, which is it's interesting to me that's how that laid out. Because again, their whole campaign on John Wayne Howe was he was more conservative than Nick Begich. And why would you vote for Peltola then? I don't know. I don't know what it says. And then of course on the Eric Hafner, we saw on his votes, he had 3,309 votes in the first round is what with all his votes. His first place votes for Hafner, he had 35% exhausted. So 35% of the ballot were just exhausted, but 20% voted for Howe after Hafner. The 36% voted for Peltola, but 8% of us voted for Nick Begich after we voted for Hafner. But 20% voted for Howe. That's so weird. The breakdown on that is just so bizarre when you look at it. I mean, this is an interesting, it's an interesting conversation to see how the numbers break out afterwards. Once the ranking is all done, we'll go back and look at this. But essentially, what this all means is that in the end, Nick Begich is still going to win this race by about 7,000 to 8,000 votes. That she would have to, even if all the votes came in, they would have to break completely opposite of where they've been for a completely opposite of where they've been breaking for the entire amount. And it's insurmountable. Not that that's going to stop her from putting out a letter saying, we need your help. We need your help. We're getting new info about my race by the minute. I urgently need your support before the next surge of details come through. She goes, on top of we estimate there's still 41,000 absentee and early votes yet to be counted. Yet the Division of Elections says that there's only 35,000, up to 35,000 votes to be counted. Where's she getting that extra 6,000 or 7,000 votes? I don't know. What is she saying in this? But of course, it's a beg letter. Please send us money. Please, we'll be fighting. Please, would you please split $25 between the Alaska Democratic Party and I to ensure that we can get the resources to keep this seat? How many millions has she spent and she still can't make it? There's going to be some challenges there. I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit of some kind. I'm sure it's coming. You know it's coming. All right, we got to go. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell if you're out on Facebook or YouTube. If you're not on Facebook or YouTube, come out and see us out there. If you're on the radio, next time you're near a computer or pick up that smartphone thing, come see us. We'll be back with more right after this.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. What do we got here? Wow. Apparently, Harold got a new title. Mr. Harold Ballbridge, Alaska's Senate District F Republican candidate. Wow, that's a mouthful. Interesting to see how that'll run. Okay. Yeah, Scooter is busy scribbling notes, figuring out how to manipulate this one to the next deal. Is that a prediction or a hypothesis? It's a prediction and a hypothesis, but it's backed up by what numbers are available publicly. So it's probably a pretty close guess. And most of the punditry and talking heads are in agreement with that. But it is interesting to see how the breakdown goes. I didn't realize that the state of Alaska was releasing some of that aggregate data, some of that raw aggregate data out of the front. I'm exhausted from this election. Yeah, exactly. Anthony says anyone who's been on YouTube instead the last 4 months will vote for Poltola when the Triggerwood Caribou Clogs is transmitted and all those sleeper agents get subconsciously activated. Apparently, somebody fell asleep at the switch and didn't send the keyword. The Begich family name is toxic for conservative voters. I know, man. But that's like saying the Kennedy name is also, you got to overcome that. You really got to overcome that. The Kennedy name, because one of the most conservative senators in the country right now is the Kennedy guy was he from Kentucky? From whatever. Same kind of thing, you know. Is it Friday yet? It's close, my friend. It's close. Can someone explain the efficiency concept? The efficiency or concept of how early voting is somehow the last thing counted. Well, early voting, for me, it wasn't necessarily about making sure my vote counted early. It was about me making sure that I didn't have to wait till election day because my life is so busy. I didn't want to get stuck because of work or things that I was doing or the weather or whatever else. And so I wanted to just get it done. I don't care when they count the vote, as long as it's counted personally. But that's just me. That's just me. Let's see. That 8% that voted for Begich second could have been the amount needed to put Begich over 50%. Possibly. Maybe. Possibly. But I'm not going to sweat it. Do they exhaust our vote if we put a write-in person who isn't necessarily running as a second choice? I don't think so. I think it goes as a write-in. I think they actually do count that write-in in the review process and then exhaust it. But I mean, because it's a write-in, it's going to be, it's not going anywhere. But we'll see. Let's see. How about it? At least the appointments aren't entirely well-known rhinos or other morons who will slow walk everything. I haven't been paying that close of attention. I saw some of the highlights. I saw Matt Gaetz. I saw that he made little Marco the Secretary of State. Ironic that they were so vicious to each other, and now he's the Secretary of State. That's right. That's right. Little Marco going worldwide, right? Isn't that what he called him? Didn't he call him Little Marco? Talk about his hands and stuff. Weird. And then, of course, Elon Musk is going to be the Department of Government Efficiency. Doge. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, they are trolling you so hard with the Department of Government Efficiency. The Doge. Sheena Ibu. I mean, if you are trolling you so hard about that. Oh my God, it's so fun. All right. It was. Oh, that is true, Jeannie. Thank you for reminding me. When Anthony was saying, explain to me how this early voting when your votes gets counted last. That's right. I forgot about that. All the early votes were counted up until the Friday before Election Day. So there was 2 weeks where all of those votes were counted. And I think before the election or on Election Day. And then the votes from Friday to Monday, those 4 days, they're counted later because they're too close to the election. So that is true. I forgot about that. All right. We're 4 seconds out. Let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Oh, somebody just made a comment in the chat room about electile dysfunction. I think they make a pill for that. It's a little blue pill for electile dysfunction. That's what we're suffering from. I gotta say, maybe you too. If ED is happy, it's happening to you. Oh man, it's gonna be interesting. All right, this is such a hot mess this morning. Where was I before we got up to the thing? So we were talking about the margins. We talked about ranked choice voting. That's going to squeak on by for sure. If it passes, it will be by a very thin margin. Could be less than 1,000 votes in the whole scheme of things. Some other interesting things, and the race that's really sticking out right now is the race in district. Oh, dang it. Which district? It's District 17? No, 18. Yep, 18. Cliff Grow and David Nelson. Because that has shrunk down now. This is Wednesday's numbers. 19 votes. Okay, I've got to actually go out and get the Alaska Relay. I keep saying that. I keep like, do I want to download a new one every day? Apparently, I do. I want to download the latest and greatest numbers every day because, again, they counted about 8,500 votes, I guess, yesterday. So let me pull up the latest and greatest. This is from this was put out and published yesterday at 4:44 p.m. All right. So the race that we're concerned about right now is House District 18, which is the northern part of the city, and Jay Bear. Cliff Grow and David Nelson, still 19 votes. Cliff Grow is leading by 19 votes out of 3,244 votes cast. 19 of them is where he sat, and that's the same that he had from Tuesday's count. So Wednesday's count didn't add anything right now. But that race is going to be close. That race, as we talked about yesterday with the Nelly Jimmy thing and everything else, that race could be critical in deciding how strong the new majority in the House, if there is a bipartisan majority, how strong it is. Will it be 21 or will it be 22? Because, again, the difference between 21 and 22 also means the difference in the numbers of majority members on the Finance Committee. So I'm really, really hoping that in the next couple days that David Nelson gets a little bump, especially because let's see, what is it? Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By next Wednesday, the international overseas votes, absentee ballots, will be due back. And David has done well amongst the military members, and he represents Jay Bear. He would be representing Jay Bear. So let's hope that if that's the case, that he could squeak out an additional 19 votes on that ballot. But that's a tough one. That is definitely a tough one right now. But again, the repeal is going to be a squeaker. We've got so far the other notes and other counts that are going on. The unofficial estimates, again, of the number of ballots remain to be counted is 35,000. The count includes about the overall count includes about 48,000 absentee ballots, 69,000 early votes, and 3,800 question ballots. They have received 73,148 total early ballots, and they've counted 69,000 of them. That leaves about 4,000 left to be counted. There are 13,093 question ballots, and they've counted about 3,800 of them, which leaves about 9,000 question ballots to be counted. They sent out 60,122 absentee by mail ballots and have received 44,936. There are 17,438 absentee ballots by mail left to count. They counted or will count 14,622 in-person absentee ballots. And they have processed 5,000 online absentee ballots and 18 faxed absentee ballots and 776 special need ballots. Now, the absentee count total is 66,341. They've counted 48,000 of those. That leaves about 18,000 absentee ballots left. They say that in 2020 and 2022, about 20% of the absentee ballots by mail that were sent out were never returned. So it's got about an 80% return rate on that. So in 2024, the division sent out 60,000 absentee by mail votes and had received about 45,000 back, which is roughly close to that historical, based on historical results, they may expect somewhere around 3,000 on the outside at the most to come back in, if they're basing it off the last 2 election historical return rates, which I don't know if you really can count, because I mean, look at the record-breaking early voting. Look at this and look at that. Maybe we bust that 20% non-return rate for the absentee ballots. But this is where we'll be laying it out right now, and we're going to be waiting until, well, tomorrow is the 15th, and then we'll be waiting until next Wednesday for the final count, and they'll run the ranked choice tabulation on the 20th. And so we'll have some answers on a week from today, the 21st. We will have some answers. That's what's going to have to be going on. We'll see where it goes from there. All right, coming up in the next hour. We're going to be talking with Sarah Vance, who is running for re-election in the State House. She is currently ahead, but has not busted the 50% threshold, so she's going to be subject to that ranked choice voting roundabout, the calculation next Wednesday, and we'll see what she thinks. What are her thoughts on all the things that are going on, the shenanigans, the immediate calling of the new majority and everything else, and the tabulation and the potential for ranked choice voting to be repealed. We'll be talking to Sarah Vance about that here in just a moment, and we will return. How about that? Don't forget to come out and check us out on social media. Don't forget, especially since we simulcast the radio show every morning on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. You can join us out there in the chat rooms and hang out with the people who are hanging out with us right now. We got about 70 people or so hanging out. Feel free to come out and join us. Join the conversation. We love to chat with each other. It's fun stuff. All right, we'll be back with more The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return right after these messages. Okay, all right. Man, I fixed my chair. Look at that. I'm like 2 inches taller. My chair was like, you know how it gets. It's like my favorite chair. I'm going to have to replace the cylinder in it. Okay. The upcoming supplemental is going to crash your PFD hopes. Doesn't the supplemental almost always crash our PFD hopes? I mean, doesn't that, yeah, I'm just saying. That crashes my PFD hopes almost every time. Kim says $500 PFD, then zero, then taxes. Oh, I think you might be a little optimistic about the zero part. I think it'll be $500 PFD, then taxes. They're not going to let a year go by where they have to try and figure it out. I won't mention why the cylinders on chairs fail. Because of my fat butt? That's why. Well, I tell you what, this chair is 8 years old. This chair has done very well. I wish they still made them. I actually bought 2 of them, And I still have them both, and they're both still excellent. Supplemental budgets represent a failure of management, says Donna. Hello, Donna. Man, we missed you. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. You know, and then of course they always pat themselves on the back about how great they did that year before, and then when the supplemental comes around, it's like real quiet and under the rug. We won't talk about the supplemental too much. We did such a great job last year with that budget. Did you see how we trimmed it and made it good? We won't talk about the $400 million supplemental that we had to. Don't pay attention. Okay. My social media feed reminds what? My social media feed reminds me that it's time for a colon screening. Not a coincidence that it follows the election. Well, you're already prepped at that point. Right after the election, I mean, they could drive a bus in there. They don't need to. Let's see. Randy did not read your sarcasm font. He's, Randy is telling you what a faxed ballot means, what faxed means. I think it's, what is a fax? You guys, please don't poke fun. All right. Let's see. $45 oil in 2025 is looking more and more likely. Oof. Man, that could be brutal. That could be brutal. All right. Harold's just waiting around for the holiday recipe segment. That's coming. Although we're going to have a little different of a holiday. We're going to have a little different holiday setup this year. Because, I mean, I suppose I could tell you guys, because you took the time to join me in the chat room and on the podcast. We will be off the entire week of Thanksgiving on this program from Monday through Friday. That's the first thing. Before that, all that stuff I've been talking about. Well, we might have an announcement. We might have an announcement next week. So stay tuned. Don't miss it. Don't miss a show next week. That's what I'm saying. But I will give you the early bird version. I will give you the early bird warning. We will be off the air from the 25th through the 29th, which is the entire week of Thanksgiving. Because I was already going to be off on Thursday and Friday, but I got some stuff going on, and so we're going to take the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off as well. And then we'll be in December. And you know what happens between Christmas and New Year's on this program in December? We take a vacation. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to need a vacation at that point. But yeah, so we're just telling you everything is going on. Off Thanksgiving and then Christmas? I don't think so, says Terry. You can't make me. You can't stop me. You'll understand why, Terry, when I explain. You'll understand all the details. We can get drunk and break stuff, says Brian. I recommend it. All right, where is Sarah Vance? What time did I tell her? Because I'm like, where are you, sister? She's usually so punctual. All right. Let me send a question mark. All right. I'm pushing the button. Here we go. Back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
Sounds just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. It is a beautiful, beautiful Thursday. It's actually gotten warmer. It's come up 4 degrees. It was 3 degrees this morning when I got started, which, you know, I noticed as I have gotten older and as I've moved further south in the state of Alaska, spent all my life. Well, I did spend some time living in Hawaii and when I was younger, but I mean, I spent all my life, grew up, born, raised in the interior, all my adult life there. I often jokingly tell people I did my 45 years and the warden offered me parole out of Fairbanks. I love the people, but man, those 35, 40, 50, 60 below winters, which apparently after I left, I took all that with me apparently. And your guys are welcome. You haven't had a super cold winter in 10 years. But man, the winter that I left Fairbanks, the winter before I left, it was 57 below or colder for more than 3 weeks solid at my house. It's like 57, 59, 61 below. It was miserable. I mean, it was just miserable, right? And so then I moved down here, and for the first 3 years, I never put a jacket on. It was winter. I'm walking around in shirt sleeves like, man, this place is amazing. You know, it's 35, it's 15, it's whatever. Hold on a second here. I just let me let me send a right link, I guess. I got to send Sarah Vance a right link. Anyway, let me finish my story. Where was I? Let me finish my story. The story is so anyway, it was 57 below or colder. And then I got down here. It's like, oh man, it's so nice. And then over the last couple of years, like last year was the first time in 10 years I had ever seen 30 below in this location. We were 30 below here at the house at one point last year. And, but usually it's, in the low teens, 0, 10 below maybe. So not too bad. But now I'm getting wussy enough. I'm saying wussy enough because here it is. It's 0. It was 1 degree yesterday. It was 3 degrees this morning. And I'm like, brr, now I don't even like that. And then my friends like Greg down in Homer said, well, it was 26 degrees here this morning. And I'm like, oh, doesn't that sound good? Doesn't that sound good? Anyway, it's good. Yep. Now I see Sarah is in the green room. There we go. I see her now. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that story other than I was telling you how much I mean, it's ironic. Born and raised in Alaska, 3rd generation. My kids are 4th generation. I'm already, and I just am not a fan of the super, super cold anymore or snow. It's ironic, isn't it? It's ironic where I'm just like, I'm just not. I used to love the winter time. Now, not so much. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just a change. I'm still chasing the warm weather. Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I'm ready to keep going. I'm never leaving Alaska, but I seem to be moving further south. So we'll see one day, right? One day we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, so I'll stop my jabberjaw, my jaw jacking, my googly moogly. Let's go over to our guest for today. Joining us on the program is a representative from District 6 running for re-election. Sarah Vance joins us this morning, and we say hello. How are you this morning? How's
Good morning.
going? What's your like checking yourself in the
Well,
how
I'm
go
seeing
ahead.
myself through my tiny screen on my phone because
Oh,
I forgot my
oh,
laptop and
oh,
my
oh,
iPad. My iPad wouldn't find your green room, and
oh,
so here I am drinking hotel room coffee,
oh, well,
and
that's enjoyable. We all know how
so
great hotel room coffee is, right? You know,
in the fancy little expensive pods that you never can get open in the morning.
yeah, exactly. Well, you're not supposed to open those. You're supposed to just put them in the machine, poke holes in
No,
them. You
this one had the little plastic, the
oh,
individual wrapper,
oh,
and like that's where I find rage first thing in the morning.
yeah, really. Why won't you open? They need to include a razor knife so I can get into my coffee. Anyway, it's good to see you. I would offer congratulations, but of course, everything's still up in the air. Where's my latest count here? I'm sorry, I pulled it and then I dropped it again. Let me pull what the numbers are. I'm sure you know them from yesterday, but I want to show the listeners that I am Johnny on the spot with this information. So House District 6. This is it's been an interesting race to say the least. You are currently at 47.69% with yesterday's votes, which
Well, my
means
votes
because there's
have not
three of you in
changed.
there, you didn't. Yeah, your votes have not changed. So you didn't clear the 50%. That's the hurdle, right? The 50 percentile mark is the hurdle. If
So
there were
I
three or
have
four
ballots to be
candidates and somebody
counted
hits
yet.
50%, that's good. Yep. So you've still got more going on. But you are significantly ahead of all of your opponents. Brent Johnson, who is the non-declared, Reed Democratic supported, is at 42%. So he's 5 points behind. And then Dawson Slaughter only has 9%. So I guess we're going to see what, they're going to count some more tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day for in-state or in-country ballots to hit, absentee ballots. And then, of course, we have until next Wednesday for the overseas, if there's anybody, but that's probably a very small number. So tomorrow really is the day for you. And
Finally.
then they count them. This is as a candidate. Let's talk about that. As a candidate, how frustrating is that to have to wait and wait and wait? And surprisingly, I appreciate you coming on because most of the candidates are like, well, I don't really want to talk about it right now. It's just like, okay, I know it's tough, but talk about that as a candidate. What is this? How does this feel? What does this do to you, your campaign, your supporters? What's the deal here?
Well, it's like a slow bleed, you know. It's just we thought, oh, it's gonna be, last Tuesday. Oh, it's gonna be, this Tuesday. Oh, or no, we thought Thursday, after the election that we would have a lot more. And my numbers have not changed since election day. I guess, saving the best for last. I don't know. Uh, it's been absolutely frustrating. However, it has highlighted the need to change our election laws and really make some reforms in the division of elections.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this, and so your numbers haven't. Let me go back over here. This is my first election summary. So I actually have two side by sides here, and I wanted to do my own comparatives here for just a second. So your numbers haven't changed since day one. Your numbers haven't, but
Correct.
your opponents, 3868, 3868. 830. Not just you, but none of your. There has not been an update for almost 10 days now in district 6. So
Correct.
there were either no absentee ballots, no question ballots, no either that, or you're about to get a mega dump. I mean, what's
Yes, I know that in
a little bit.
uh, in Homer number 1, there were 96 question ballots in that one precinct. I know that out east, I believe it's the Fox River precinct, that there were 26. There was a wedding, so we had a lot of visitors then. That I'm so glad that they said, "Hey, we want to vote," and they cast their ballot for president, I'm assuming. So I do know that I have a higher number of question ballots than usual, and those have to be verified. But the early absentee that came in Friday through Monday before Election Day still have not been counted. And those have to be verified as well. But 10 days, that seems excessive.
Well, 10 days to at least not have gone through some of them, right? I mean, again, I've got the election summary from the day of the morning of the next day, the 6th of November. And the numbers have not changed one iota since the 6th of November. And Donna Ardwin just had to poke at us and say, she says, I'm in Florida where it's 89 degrees and they counted 13 million votes by 10 p.m. on election night. Okay. I mean, right.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
why
It can
is
be
this
done.
so hard? Why is this so hard? I don't understand. Even with ranked choice voting, even with the tabulation, which hasn't even taken place yet. That
Correct.
doesn't take place till next Wednesday. So we're fiddle farting around. We're 10 days post-election here almost. And we haven't even counted all the ballots that are on hand with only what the total number of votes cast was 302,000. They counted 13 million ballots by 10 p.m. on election night. We've been 10 days, haven't even counted all 304,000 votes.
I don't know if it's that we need more election employees to help with the counting. I've been thinking about this. What would I do if I was the lieutenant governor? And definitely ensuring that the counting of the ballots is accurate and timely. And this has been something that we've been dealing with for years. So they got more money in the budget. They get federal dollars to help in a presidential election. And then they asked for an additional 2.5 million just for ranked choice voting. So they had additional money. I don't know where the issues lie of why it's taking so long to do the counting.
Well, and this is part of the frustration, which I guess we'll get into in the next segment. But part of the frustrating part is that this is not the only frustration with the division of elections this go around. I mean, this has been kind of a train wreck of an election for many different things. And so I do want to talk to you about that here as well. Sarah Vance is our guest. She was kind enough to join us while she's traveling, and we're going to continue, let her drink her horrible coffee, hotel coffee. And we will continue in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are moving forward here. Sarah's getting some more coffee. And problem with
Getting some lights on.
Getting some lights on. The problem with the hotels is that they don't include Baileys in their little, their little coffee set. What's wrong with that?
Is that how you start your morning, Michael?
How I start my morning every day, if possible. Who am I kidding? I don't even own Baileys anymore, which is too bad. That's actually pretty tasty. Anyway, So how's it been since the post? I mean, I guess because I talked to one person and they're like, yep, you know what? He goes, I'm going to Hawaii. This has been a tough time going to Hawaii for 10 days. And I'm like, wow, he goes, I need it. Whereas other people I know are kind of just like hovering around waiting to it's got to be that limbo. It's just got to be the worst in that kind of situation. So what have you been doing since election day?
Well, I've been busy, and you know, right after election day, we were hearing that, our members are forming a coalition, and so we connected, of course, and then saw, their announcement, and we're going, wait a minute, come on, guys, you're posturing a bit early, especially with ranked choice voting, and we knew that some races in Anchorage would be close, and here we are waiting, so it's just essentially a game of chicken, of who's gonna make a move, and
Right.
so, you know, as Republicans, we're holding strong and just waiting for the results and talking about what's important. But I'm in Anchorage, attending the legislative seafood industry task force meetings because we're trying to figure out what we need to do to help save the seafood industry. And I've been attending meetings every single month, all fall. We're going to meet all the way up to January so that we can form legislation to help the industry. I have generational fishermen who are really struggling because they didn't make any money because the harvest tanked with the pink salmon this year. So that's very much on my heart. I leave for Seattle for the Fish Expo next week, and we'll be gone for quite a few days. And then the week after that is Thanksgiving, and I will start my Nutcracker uh, room mom duties there and helping with costumes. And then the first week of December is the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute All Hands on Deck conference marketing up here in Anchorage, where I learn a lot about what's happening in the global market. And then the week after that, I will be attending the National Association of Christian Lawmakers uh, annual gala with Charlie Kirk. And moving on policy, I think one of the highlights this year is going to be protecting our kids from a lot of the online activity, age verification. And that's very much on people's minds right now of all of the content, especially since X is free speech and unfiltered. Uh, but when it comes to our children, there should be a filter. So I am busy being a legislator. I'm doing my job as the numbers come in and just making sure that I'm connecting with my constituents on important issues because that doesn't stop while we're waiting for these
Right.
ballots. And that's my passion, right? The
Right.
the campaign gets in the way of governing. I'll say that. I mean, it's fun because I'm connecting with people, but I'm like, how can I serve you? How can I do the job? I'd rather work for someone than try to convince them I'm great, you know?
Right. Right. No, it's interesting because again, you are in office until January anyway, one way or the other, and so you still have work to do and trying to get this done. The fish thing is definitely frustrating. I did see what was the headline that I saw this morning? The one of the trawling organizations lost their pitch for a bigger take in court here yesterday. So there is some good news. We'll see exactly what happens with that. But I do want to talk about the formation of the new coalition majority and everything else. But we'll continue on here in just a moment. Sarah Vance is our guest. I've already forgotten what I was going to ask her to begin with, what we left the last segment with. This is how today's going. I have not had enough coffee.
Well, we have a lot of
Public
exciting
enemy
things.
number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Yes. I know. I've been told that before. You're such a pain in the Michael Duke show. Good morning. It is your favorite radio show on your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and of course out on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble as well. Representative Sarah Vance joins us this morning. We were just talking about post-election things, and she's been a busy beaver. She's been out there doing things and talking about stuff. But ironically, I think the most interesting thing Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. I've got Alzheimer's this morning, or old timers, or whatever you want to call it. I wanted to talk about the performance of the Division of Elections in this go around. I mean, first, we were just talking about how we haven't had a single ballot apparently counted in District 6 since Election Day. And why? I mean, you've got all these other ones going on. But also, it wasn't just that. It was the sample ranked choice ballot with Harris's name on it. It was the calling Mia Costello a Democrat. It was setting an entirely wrong ballot and allowing people to vote on them in one district. And I mean, it was just this comedy of, I mean, I would say comedy of errors, but it's a tragedy of errors. 4 or 5 major things in the division of elections. And while I don't necessarily want to beat up too much on Lieutenant Governor Dahlstrom, lieutenant governors have one job, and that is overseeing the division of elections. You just mentioned earlier how they've got a ton of money and they got another $2 million for ranked choice voting because they needed it to help implement it and everything else. And yet we're seeing all what is going on, and what, as a legislator, can you do to help fix this? I mean, do we just need to call it out and say, Lieutenant Governor, please step up? Or what? I mean, what do we need to do here?
All of the above, Michael. All of the above. So the other thing that I did last week was send a letter to the Division of Elections, to our Lieutenant Governor and the Director, Carol Beecher, asking them for an audit of the 113,000 Alaskans' uh, personal information who was breached in the 2020 election, asking them to verify uh, their ballots were cast the way that they intended, that there was no tampering or influence. Because in 2020, if you remember, prior to the election, there was a significant data breach, and that is almost 19% of the voters' information was breached and is out there on the dark web. This is the personal information that they need to be a verifier on their absentee or question ballot. This is out there. So I said, hey, I haven't forgotten about this, and I want you to take a look to make sure that this information isn't being used maliciously in this election. So I have not heard a reply back, but that is something that a lot of people have said, hey, I was one of those people, and I'm really concerned about this still. So, I having accountability with the division saying, hey, we're taking a look, and then having people do their part with their ballot and their information is also helpful.
I wonder if, and we won't know until, of course, the election is over and they've accumulated and they've looked at it and they've looked at the absentees. It would be interesting to see if anybody's data from the 2020 or 2022 election and the data breach, if they did end up with a double vote, right? If they voted in person, but then the division shows that there was an absentee ballot in their name as well, that would be an interesting thing to see. And then, of course, something that you've been passionate about and actually had legislation on last year was this cleaning up the voter rolls. I mean, we have got, what is it, 108% of actual voters on the rolls. And yet every time we try and speed this process up, not short circuit it, not make it immediate, but make it, what was it, taking it from 8 to 6 years or something?
Yes.
Just cutting a couple of years off to speed the process up of cleansing our voter rolls of people who have died, people who have moved away. And you're getting tremendous pushback on it. It's to me, it's astonishing.
It is, but we know that the left wants open borders on our elections, and that's simply unacceptable. The Senate has already said that they're going to work on election reform this year, and I already know their playbook. So I'm going to say no, we're not going to make the changes without security measures in place. A lot of the changes that they want would be reasonable if there were that extra security like multi-factor authentication, but we have to come to that agreement. Otherwise, I'm not going to give it to them. And one of the things that people want is to make sure that their vote counts the way they cast it. They don't want someone else using their information. They want to make sure that it reaches the division on election day, and that it isn't being it isn't being negated by a fraudulent ballot. And that's very, very hard to prove, by the way, but it does happen. I think we're still waiting for Gabrielle Ledoux's verdict on those fraudulent uh, votes. So, people say, "Oh, it doesn't happen here." Oh, we don't have to look very far, do we,
Yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, and we're waiting, and that was in 2017 or 2018, wasn't it? I
Oh,
think it's 2017 or 2018. I mean, it's been almost 6 years. I mean, the original that she was supposed to go to court during COVID. So it was 2020. So it would already have been 2 or 3 years, and here we are. We're 6, 7 years down the road. We still haven't litigated this case. And so it does happen. I don't know how often, but even one is troubling, right? Even one is troubling. Your bill was pretty simple. We saw what the Senate did. Your bill, again, was a simple bill that went across. Explain to me exactly what happened again with that, because it went over to the committees. Then Scott Kawasaki basically sandwiched pages and pages and pages into the middle of it. So walk us through that real quick.
so my bill would clean up the voter rolls. It was a simple 4-page bill that would give the Division of Elections specific direction on where to get the data to verify voters were still Alaskan voters. And it was using governmental sources of data instead of, for instance, the obituary to check to see if someone died. It said use the Social Security Death Index. So that would be one difference in just kind of the process of that. But it, like you said, it would take the number down from 8 years before someone can be removed off of the voter registration to 6 years. It was a compromise because I could have taken it down to 4 years. Uh, but I thought, okay, 6 years is reasonable. And it would send out a notification postcard with a postage paid return postcard, and allow someone to email the division to say, "Hey, I moved. You can take me off the rolls." Uh, it was extremely reasonable. It was a great compromise. It passed the House with bipartisan support, and then Scott Kawasaki stuffed up, a lot of his big dreams in there. And I told him right out of the gate, I said, "You're not going to get uh, an
Con-
agreement in the House. This
Concurrent.
is You're not going to get concurrence. I'm not going to agree to this." And I told him, I said, "You have your omnibus election bill sitting in House rules." He couldn't even get the votes in the Senate on his own election package, but he decided to stink up mine. And now they're claiming, that it was uh, suppressing Native votes. And let me just say on the record, that's simply not true. I don't write election law for any particular candidate or any particular group of voters. I write election law so that every voter has a secure ballot. We make it about them and not candidates, and not about a single election. But I had a feeling that they were trying to run for the goalpost and open things wide up, and that's unacceptable. I'm trying to do what's best for Alaska, not just today, but also many years down the road.
And they're referencing the signature line on the absentee ballots, right? That's one of the big sticking points is, well, people shouldn't have to get a witness to signature or their signature on the outside of the ballot or whatever. And which again, first of all, I find it excruciatingly condescending. Are you saying that people can't sign their own name to the outside of a ballot, that's some kind of challenge? I mean, these are the same people that say, well, we shouldn't have to have voter right. You have to have ID to do anything. Open a bank account,
Correct.
get food stamps, buy a car, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have said, I need your ID. And I'm like, why? Well, it's a government. Oh, okay. I mean, here's my ID. I mean, how condescending that you feel like these people can't get an ID. The government essentially, if you're indigent or you're a low, you could get an ID basically for free. What is the problem here? And so this is that same kind of idea that, oh, you're penalizing them for living in. All they have to do is sign their name to the outside, or get their
Well,
neighbor to sign a witness, or whatever it
and
is. It's
have a
incredible.
witness.
Yeah.
And really, that was one of the asks, but they wanted same-day voter registration, which opens up the door for all kinds of activity. They wanted people to be able to cure their ballot, which, hey, curing a ballot is great, but if you don't have the protection in place to show that it's that voter doing the curing, like multi-factor authentication, then it opens it up for someone else trying to change, verify and change a ballot. So uh, let me think. They had several things that would have opened things wide up without any accountability. And so when they're going to be talking about this again in the session, and it's going to sound very reasonable, but
Right.
without the security measures in place, it's going to open it up for uh, interference. Let's
Right.
let's use
Right.
that word,
Well,
interference.
and we know things are changing, right? Technology is changing, things are changing, the way we're voting is changing. But we also know, I mean, how many of us out there have had our credit card compromised? I have.
Exactly.
I have. I mean, I've had it happen a couple times in 10 years. If you've had your credit card compromised, you know how tough that is. What happens if they compromise your identity in something like voting? I mean, it's got to be secure. There's got to be, if I have to have multi-factor authentication to be able to log into a Lowe's account and buy some hardware goods, why should I not have to have factor authentication to vote? I mean, that just makes sense to me. That's not rocket surgery.
Our
Um,
My Alaska account already requires that. You're already doing it within the state of Alaska,
right, right. If
right?
you're signing your PFD, you're getting the whole thing and doing all that if you're applying online.
And I don't hear about discrimination from the villages regarding that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I don't want to spend too much more time on that, but I do want to talk a little bit here. I got about 4.5 minutes before we got to go to the break. But I, I just looked at my newspaper the day after election, and I went, "What? The the bipartisan majority, the powers that be, the business as usual crowd." I'm not even saying the Democrats and the Republicans. I'm saying the crowd that is pro government economy and pro big government spend. They did some political posturing and came out and said, well, we've got a new majority. I mean, we haven't decided any of the races yet, but we've got a new majority, and here it is. And Bryce Edgman and Chuck Kopp and Kathy Giesel and all these other names, it's all going to be great and great. And all I could think of was, one, wow, the hubris. Two, we still don't know, some of these races are close. Three, now we're finding out about what's going on with Nellie Jimmy and some of this other stuff. I mean, if they get a majority, it will be so slim. I mean, is it just posturing? Is it just trying to capture the public's imagination? What is it in your mind?
Oh yeah, this is a great game of poker. And this is essentially the Muskox coalition, right? We've seen this before. And they are they're making their moves early. We know that. There were agreements made before the election. And yeah, they're definitely posturing and sending a message. It's a bold move. We think that it's a little premature. So we're holding out. And something to remind people is that nothing is set until those votes are cast on the floor. And because
Right.
with it being so tight, there's going to be a game of Red Rover and trying
Right.
to offer people something and say, "Hey, come over here with us. It'll be
Yeah.
great. It'll be fun."
Yeah.
And
Come to the dark side. We have cookies. I mean, that's,
right?
yeah, it's red. Somebody said that yesterday, Red Rover. Well, won't you come over kind of thing. And we're going to see that. And we've already seen some of the posturing. You said that the Republicans are holding strong, but I saw a comment last week from Will Stapp in the paper where he said, "Oh, well, I would join a bipartisan coalition, but they just haven't asked me yet," kind of thing. And I'm like, are they going to hold strong? Is this last session's majority going to hold together, or are they going to peel off like that? What do give me a prediction based on what it's at right now? I mean, the Cliff Grow David Nelson race is going to be close.
Ooh,
If
that one's close.
if David Nelson wins that race with Nellie Jimmy, their majority would be 21. That's
Nobody could take a potty break when we're on the
that,
floor.
That's not a majority. That is like that's as and of course we got, looks like Underwood has beat Eastman, so at least that seat will come back. But what do you think? Give me I got about 60 seconds here. Give me your predictive as you look at this. What does it look like for reals in the end?
Well, Bryce isn't the only poker player. So, this is a game of who's gonna hold out, but the numbers were definitely, waiting with bated breath on the David Nelson race to see how close things are going to be. But regardless, someone has to make a move to reach, 21. If they uh, we're hearing that there's people over there who are not happy with the organizational makeup, and we as Republicans, we treat each other with respect, and we don't browbeat members for their votes. And I've seen some pretty hard ball with the Democrats. I'm just going to say that. I heard a member last year say, "Can't I just vote my conscience?" And I told this member, I said, "That's all you have here. Don't let anyone tell you how to vote."
Right.
And I really felt bad, but that's how they play. And you got to fall in line. So with these new candidates, that's something that you need to consider is who do you want to associate with? Do you want to have your free will and vote for your district and your conscience, or do you want to do what you're told? They'll be act like you'll have all this latitude, but I've seen it. It's a tough road over on the other
Right.
side.
Well, again, and one of the only differences between the two potential majorities is one is a binding caucus where you have to sell your vote, you have to pledge your loyalty, and the other one is you can vote your conscience. It may be a little messier, but at least you'll be able to vote what you want to do. All right, we're going to continue with Sarah Vance in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty Based, Free Thinking Radio. We return to more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break. Sarah Vance is our guest. We're ready to go. Yeah, I'm watching all this, and again, I'm glad that some of the Democrats have said things like that. Like, can I just vote my conscience? I mean, I I personally find it so offensive that somebody would come to you in such a bullying way and said, "Well, you can come play with us, but only if you do absolutely what we tell you to do." That you can do anything else, but when we tell you to vote with us, you vote with us no matter what. I mean, that's a
Well, that's
hard
not how it's sold.
yeah, no, but that's essentially what it is, right? Am I wrong? I mean, that's a hard no for me. That's a hard no. You want me to guarantee my vote on bills and budgets that not a single word has been written about yet. You want me to commit now to something that's going to happen 6 months from now that I'm going to have to vote on, and I have to guarantee my vote. Well, you'll get your chance in the committees, and no, no, the final product. I could make my fight in the committee. I could make my fight and win in the committee, or maybe lose in the committee. But at the end, on that final vote, I need to be able to have my say because I'm not just representing me, I'm representing all my constituency and everything else. And maybe they don't want that. And I find that so offensive, quite honestly.
Well, the interesting part is on the other non-budget votes. That was said, that I overheard that comment on something that wasn't nearly as important. I don't even remember what it was, uh, but the person felt strongly that they wanted to be able to vote different than what their caucus was voting, and it was no, no, you're gonna stay in line, and that's hard. There are menial things, procedural votes where it's like, hey, let's stick together as a team and make a strong hold, because it comes down to majority, minority, and being able to keep your power on the floor, make sure that you still have your influence. So sometimes menial votes come down to that, right? And it's better to stick together.
Right.
Uh, but when it's on policy and you're not allowed to vote according to your district and your conscience on any given policy bill, and I don't know that it would have made changed the outcome either. And that's a struggle because uh people want true representation. They want authenticity. And a lot of times that isn't allowed. Now, every majority is different. However, what I am hearing, that which is pure rumors and speculation, is that there are some members who don't like the fact that these uh, these individuals came out and said, "Well, we're going to be leadership, and this is the way it's going to go. You just follow us, and everything will work out great." So we'll
So
see how that goes.
maybe they didn't consult the whole majority before they started picking team leaders, right? I mean,
Well,
and
that's kind of the way it goes.
yeah. Well, so that leads me to believe that as a selling point, this is the salesman in me, Kathy Tilton and the rest of you in the leadership on the Republican side, you guys need to be selling these Democrats on the idea that you can vote your conscience. We'll work with
Oh
you.
yeah,
We'll fight back and forth about things, but you can vote your
sure.
conscience. You join us, you can vote your conscience on any bill you want.
Well,
And
and
that could be a major selling point.
good governance goes a long way in truly respecting Alaskans and who they sent to serve. That's hard. We want our own way. We wanted everyone to think about things the way that we do. But we are a huge state. We're very diverse. And when we respect someone's perspective from their district and work with them to find a workable solution that we can agree on, we need to let that course of action take place. And it's messy, it takes more time, it's
Oh yeah.
longer, it's hard. But I think that's what Alaskans are demanding of us, and that's what I'm after. I'm not just, hey, vote for this, don't change it, don't do anything, and my way or the highway.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Nothing
Yeah.
happens in the legislature without a whole team of people helping you.
Anytime anyone in government, be they bureaucrats or politicians, talk about making things easier, making the process easier and smoother, you should be afraid because the founding fathers made this messy and complicated for a reason so that
Yes.
everybody could have their say, so that there could be diverse points of view, so there could be people voting their conscience against things they didn't agree with. It is intentionally messy. And the messier, the better, because one, it slows down the growth of government. And two, it makes sure that everybody it's a compromise. Everybody's a little unhappy when it's all said and done. But at least we've done it together. We don't need a rubber stamp. Anytime it's supposed to get smoother, that should be when you're worried. All right, we're going to jump back in, and I'm going to give Sarah her lead here on this. The Michael Duke Show.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Oh, baby. That's me. Welcome back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Sarah Vance is our guest, representative from District 6, running for re-election. It's still it's looking good. The numbers look good, but, we just don't know. Did you and Dawson have any kind of discussion, Dawson Slaughter, the other Republican in the race, about ranking? Like, were you encouraging your people to rank the red? Was he encouraging people to rank the red? Because, if you just look at the raw numbers of Republicans versus undeclareds, that should be, if his people ranked you as number 2 as a Republican, this should be a no-brainer. Did you have any of those conversations?
We did loosely. I encouraged people to rank me first, of course, but I don't know. The rumors is that he was working with my other opponent, Brent, for them to rank each other. So we will see. I don't know. I don't know. We can make all kinds of predictions. The analytics look very strong for me, but it comes down to you just can't predict how people are going to rank, and that's one of the ridiculous things about ranked choice voting is that some people, about 30%, only vote for one candidate, and then you never know how the ranking goes after that. But I remain hopeful. I have a piece that I will be declared the winner.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because the early voting seemed to be breaking more along conservative lines than ever before. I mean, it was unprecedented across the country. The early voting seemed to be breaking more conservative, and if they haven't added a single early vote or uncounted vote or the Friday to Monday votes or the absentee votes, it should be interesting to see what's going on. So if assuming that you go back and I think that that's probably the likely outcome here, fingers crossed. What is what is your what are your tactics and what is your mission for this next for your next term here? What are you looking at when you look back at it after a couple of years? What do you want to look back at and say, this is what we've done, this is what we've accomplished, this is what I want to look at?
Well, obviously, top issues are education, energy, and a balanced budget. Uh, Personally, the seafood industry, my fishermen need help. We need to make some reforms to help our small boat fishermen thrive. Um, I would like to see uh, the Human Trafficking Council becomes permanent in law. That's something very dear to my heart. I'm concerned that if we don't do that this session, that work could potentially end, and that would be devastating to protect the vulnerable here in the state. So there are other measures that I care deeply about with that I worked on last year, and then election reform. But my concern is that where our majorities are so thin, that the same thing would happen with hijacking the election bills. I do know, based upon what the Senate has said, unless that number changes, they will do a bill and shove it over. And I am going to work on making sure that they put the proper protections in place and that I have a say of keeping that secure for Alaskans.
And I think that's important. And you were talking again about the fisheries issue. This is a big issue, which admittedly, I do not have a huge background in. I mean, I was a commercial fisherman when I was much younger, which was an interesting education in how things were done and all that kind of stuff. But this is a big deal especially for the coastal communities and down south and stuff like that. And our industry is definitely struggling, whether it's the commercial, whether it's sport, whether it's tourism and charter. This is a big issue for the state of Alaska, and we have to get a handle on it.
More than $1 billion of income was lost this last year. We need to put that in perspective that this is impacting the income, just the people's ability to earn a living right now, and families are struggling as coastal communities. We heard from King Cove that 70% of the city's income was lost because of the Peter Pan plant, say that 5 times, closing. And we need to help be able to provide a good groundwork for a strong economy in our coastal communities. I do not want that to go away. It's such a great lifestyle and family tradition and way of life for Alaska. So it's very much my priority over these next couple of months to find what we can do for having strong policy to move forward.
And we're already facing a challenge. I mean, the governor's 10-year forecast, based on much higher oil numbers than we're seeing right now, was already saying it's going to be a $1 billion deficit every year moving forward for the next 10 years. Brad Keithley came up with new numbers based on the current oil's futures. And he says next year, $1.6 billion is the deficit for next year alone. And what does that mean for the permanent fund? And if they are able to get the 1413 BSA increase, which is another $600 million, and they're able to get defined benefits in, which is potentially upwards of almost $1 billion a year. I mean, that's 1.6 plus another 1.5. We're $3 billion. The permanent fund itself, the entire thing, the dividend is only $2.4 billion,
Right.
it's all gone. All right. If
With
they're
the
using that
current,
as a pot of money.
that's true, Michael. There would be no dividend. There would be taxes. And that's something that people need to realize right now is that with this current budget, there will be no capital budget. There's no extra cookies and road projects and things like that that will be coming to our districts because the budget is going to be so tight. And the dividend will be, on the table again. Uh, you know, NEA has been pounding on the table for inside the formula. That means an automatic increase every year, no matter what. And we just don't have the money. It's not that we want to say no to everything as Republicans. We're trying to balance the budget and make sure that we can live another day. And that's what people need to realize with this coalition is that they are almost guaranteeing that there will be little to no dividend and a statewide income tax.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I've been talking about that for 3 years, that's an inevitability based on current projections and spending. I mean, we're already increasing the budget every year by $150 million baked in. If they increase the BSA, that could go up to 200 or 250 every year, which means that every 4 years, it's an additional $1 billion on the books if they add not a
Correct.
single other dollar. And it's just, it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. And that's the frustrating part. And everybody seems to think we're too big to fail and it won't matter. And yet we'll create this doom loop where if you do put taxes on, people will start moving out. And then that tax base will be on a smaller group. And then that'll force more people to move out. And that same tax base will be on, and pretty soon we'll have a mass out migration. And that doesn't help anybody in the long run. 90 seconds here.
It's already happening, Michael, but we need the people's engagement to pay attention closely. Call your legislator and say, hey, I need you to fight for a balanced budget. I know things are going to be tight, but you know, we don't want taxes, and so you're going to have to say no to a lot of things, a lot of good things, and that's where we need the participation from the voters.
Well, it is a participatory sport, politics. It is a participatory sport. You got to get involved. Sarah Vance, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Like I said, a lot of people are nervous about coming on before they know the results. You're happy to do so, and I appreciate that. Good luck. We'll be watching tomorrow and Monday to see what kind of numbers you pull out here. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Good to see you, Michael.
All right, hold the line for a second. Folks, we're out of time. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday. We're hoping to have Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine on to talk about the assault weapons ban in Illinois and how it got defeated. But we'll have Willie Waffle as well. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, Sarah, final bite at the apple. Tell us how you really feel. It's just you, me, and 60 of our closest friends on the internet. Tell me how you really feel about things. What's final thoughts?
Well, I feel confident that will be the declared winner. I've had a piece about it the entire time. I knew it would be close. I'm trying to remain hopeful that we will have some additional members with these ballots coming in. I think that that there will be some recounts and contested races. uh, I'm concerned about the future of the state right now. That's how I really feel. And I'm gonna go back in and keep swinging because I'm looking at what the long term is going to be, not just the next election, not just the next year. Uh, this is the long term future of our state, and that's what I'm fighting for. And I know that a lot of people care about the same thing. So I tell you, all of this has increased my prayer life. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. Constantly. My knees are worn out, she says. My knee, it's just one of those things. It's got to happen. All right. We got to go. Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming on board. Good luck, and keep me in the loop if anything else pops up. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on board. Appreciate it. All right, folks. Well, that does it for me today. Again, keep it amongst yourselves, but I will be off the week of Thanksgiving. We'll be making that announcement next week. Appreciate you guys coming on board. Thank you for being part of it. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
American.